Welcome back to another episode of 7,000 Volts, Living an Electrified Life. Today's topic, taking the training wheels off. And when I say taking the training wheels off, it means we're going to talk about literally taking the training wheels off. You know, in the beginning when you were a kid, or some people was maybe an older kid or an adult, maybe even when you first started riding a bike, you had the training wheels and it gave you balance, security, and confidence before you can take those training wheels off. But yet here we are in the present day, and some people physically still have training wheels on in life. And what I mean by that is they literally have training wheels on. They always need help. And you have some people that take to the next level, to the extreme, and they become BMX riders. So some people got so comfortable and with their confidence, they did the Tour de France. Oh man, there's a turn towards it, the Tour de France. But they've been able to take bike riding to another level. They can have that BMX. In fact, the other day, me and my son, Michael and David, were watching these videos on YouTube of these bicyclists riding on the side of a mountain, going down a steep hill with a GoPro camera on. I was like, yeah, that's not something I want to try. I asked David. David's like, no, I'm good. Michael's like, I want to try it. Michael's the risk taker. But even in something so simple, he had the confidence already in his mind that speed is for him and that's something that he wants to do. So changing the gear a little bit from riding a bike, let's get on the life part of why it's important to take those training wheels off, because training wheels are not meant for a lifetime. Life kind of works like training wheels. At some point, and sometimes you may need help. You may need help financially. You may need help with some type of advice. But if you never take those training wheels off and you're that person that constantly needs help financially, you're always looking to others to do things for you. Maybe it's that time that you look in the mirror. You know how you're riding the bike and you still have the training wheels on, and you go around a group of kids in the neighborhood and everybody has those training wheels off and you kind of feel out of place. And Mr. David, my youngest son, he's just too cool. He first started riding a bike and he went around a group of kids. He came back to the house like, Daddy, we need to take these off. I'm like, for what? He said, because I don't need them anymore. I'm like, David, you just started riding a bike. You do need these training wheels. Well, he was content on taking them off, so I helped him take them off, and surely I took them off. He crashed right into the mailbox because he wasn't ready. But in his mind, he was ready because he wanted to look cool in front of the other kids. But I love his confidence that he had, because he didn't want to seem like he was a handicap. Not that you're a handicap, but at the age of 5, you feel a different kind of way. You feel like you can run through a mountain or a brick wall, because you can do everything that the big brother do and the other kids from the neighborhood does. Again, if we're always leaning on someone else for our way of life, like training wheels, then the training wheels in life stays on for us. And that's a terrible place to be, because of the fact that there's no progress, there's no confidence, there's no security, and there's no growth. And when there's no growth, we become stagnant. It becomes contempt. And when life becomes contempt for you, what is it actually you can do on your own without leaning on someone else, have to picking up the phone to call somebody for the essentials that you need in life? I'm not being unsympathetic to when I say this, because there's some true handicaps in life that people need help. Even at that point, there's have to be a cutoff that you feel, because I've watched and seen some stories of some people do some amazing, extraordinary things. Like, I've seen a video with a person with no arms. For whatever reason, I didn't dig or dive deep into why they didn't have their arms. But this person learned to do everything with their feet, from driving to working, and they use other senses and parts of their bodies. And so we're not talking about these people. So what I'm talking about, the people, the able-bodied people that are blessed to have all their limbs, and for some reason they kept those training wheels on. Man, those training wheels are very useful and they're good in the beginning because it's like trying to get water from a well. Once you prime that pump, that water starts flowing, and once that water is flowing, you have water. And so help is good. I'm a very proud person, very proud. I remember in my early 20s, I asked a friend for $20 for gas. Man, I felt lower than a snake's belly because the fact that I was at a point in life, early in life for me, that I didn't manage my money well enough where I had to ask somebody else for money. And so that didn't sit well with me. And so I did something about it. I said, you know what? That's a tough position to be in, to ask somebody for a lousy $20. And it wasn't lousy at the time because I needed gas to get back and forth to work. But it did something to me because it brought back childhood memories of me asking people for money and begging for money and stuff just to get by. And so I did something about it. I finished clipping those training wheels off. I said that will never happen again. Now I'm not saying that you don't need any help, but because as a business person, there's gonna be times you need money. But when I need money, it ain't gonna be no $20 for gas. I might need 10 or 20,000 or 100,000 for a piece of equipment, and I simply go to the bank and fill out a few pieces of paperwork here and there, and I get the financial help I need. And so I'm not making light of, you may need some help and assistance throughout the community or something. But if it's all the time, then there's where the problem lies. It's all the time. If you need help every paycheck, every single day, then there's those training wheels. Those training wheels need to come off along with the umbilical cord being cut, because there's some lessons in life that we have to learn to take us to a level where we don't have the training wheels on. And here's the truth. There's going to come a time when we can't use the same excuses as an excuse anymore. We have to move forward in life in order to reach and attain that growth that we all seek. To not act a part or look a part, but genuinely deep here inside your heart, inside your soul, be able to really accomplish that goal where you get to live the part, that part of peace, that part of resilience, that part of living life without training wheels on. I wrote about this in my book. Growing up, all roads always led back to my grandmother's house. Like, we leaned on my grandmother. Like, we, when I say we, I had no control of the matter at the time. But when things got tough and I guess the rent didn't get paid, or we got kicked out, or whatever the reason was, we leaned on my grandmother. And all those roads, we always landed back at my grandmother's house. And at some point as kids, as we got older, we got navigated through life and we became wise. And I know for me and my siblings, it's like, okay, I'm me personally. So let me just talk for me personally. I said, I need to forge a life with my kids where all roads don't lead back to the same place, because we're not doing our job as a parent. And so far so good. I don't see it being reversed where all roads has to lead back to this place or that place. All roads for me leads back to home, and for my kids, which makes what I do every day, going out and providing, but not just providing, managing this thing called life without the training wheels. Because with the training wheels, those crutches become just what it is. It becomes a crutch, and when something becomes a crutch, it stunts to growth. And without growth, what do we really have? We can't go to this level or that level because we're stuck at the same level with no growth. And we become dependent on others to do the basic essentials for us that we can do for ourselves if we manage just the few things that God has already blessed us with. And the fact that we're here on earth, that's a blessing in itself. And he said all things are possible through him. And so when we allow that word to manifest through us, not only can we cut the umbilical cord, but we get to take those training wheels off and ride for its ride. So as we continue to move forward, we realize that we don't need just to survive in life. At some point, we need that anchor. And when we have that anchor, we can forge forward. We can do those things in life that God has intended for us to do. Throughout the cycle of all roads leading back to my grandmother's house, it came with its fair share of challenges. But one thing that it taught me, there's two things, that's right, only two things in life that I come to realize that are free. And that's salvation and oxygen that we breathe. And so once we understand that there's two things, not three, two things that I know of that's free. And now that you know by listening to the sound of my voice in this podcast, say it with me: salvation and oxygen. And so everything else you must pay. So once we understand everything else we must pay, that means we have to be a good steward of what little, what's plentiful, what it is that we have, because that keeps the training wheels off. That keeps the umbilical cord from trying to reattach to be codependent on someone else for the basic essentials of life. Have you ever been in need and you needed help with this or that, and you just got to the place where you're like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I can just ask so and so, or I can just ask my brother, or I can just ask my sister, or I can just ask my mom or my dad, or I can just ask this person. You ever just get to the place, or I can just manage so I don't have to ask anybody? Some people has got so comfortable leaning on other people for their basic essentials. I remember when my grandmother was living, I had to graduate from a certain stage because she was like, hey, I need you to come look at this plumbing. And I would go over and I'll look at the plumbing, didn't know what I was looking at, didn't know what I was getting myself into. Here's what I did know. I knew after 3 or 4 hours trying to fix something that I had no clue what I was doing, I graduated from that stage. So when my grandmother would call me and say, hey, something's wrong with the plumbing, I'm like, no problem, I'm sending the plumber over. She said, no, that's going to cost too much money, baby. I said, well, I'd rather pay him than to come over there and spin my wheels for 4 or 5 hours, turn it into a second or third day to fix a simple problem that he can fix in probably 30 minutes. So when I graduated that day, it became easier. She said, hey, something's wrong with the AC. No problem. I'm going to send the AC person over. So maybe you know somebody, maybe it's just me, that you get these phone calls of stuff that you really don't know what you're doing, but out of some false sense of loyalty or commitment to a friend or a family member, you mosey on over there like you're an electrician or you're an AC person trying to fix something that you have no clue what you're doing. Well, we're going to have a graduation ceremony later on at the end of this broadcast. That's who I'm talking to, because I've been that guy. And I've been that guy with the training wheels on, feeling like I have to fix something that I have no clue. Listen, I'm a certified arborist. I do trees. I'm pretty good at some other things too, but let's just name the few things that I'm good. I'm good at barbecuing, trimming trees. I'm a certified arborist. I like to believe I'm a good businessman, but one of my most important jobs, I like to believe I'm a good father and husband. Plumber, I'm not. Electrician, I'm not. I dislike mowing yards. I barely mow my own. So I pay. So we find the things that we're good at the most, and we kind of stick to what we do. And the reason why, not only can we not be a doormat for other people, but we can't go through life with training wheels on for ourselves, trying to fit in, trying to do things that doesn't measure up. And it keeps us with the umbilical cord and training wheels on. You got to graduate. You got to move from dependency to responsibility, from needing to contributing, from consuming to creating. And that's why today on this show, I want to hold a little graduation ceremony. Cue up my graduation music. This ceremony is for the person listening who's made the decision to stop making excuses, the one who's ready to step forward even if it's shaky. At first, the one who's ready to say, I may stumble, I may fall, but I'm not going back to the training wheels. Congratulations today. There's no cap and gown. but with courage and determination, you're crossing that invisible stage. I want you to picture yourself leaving behind dependency and you're walking into responsibility. And when you do that, you start living an electrified life. A life with power, a life with purpose, a life where you're not just surviving off someone else's effort, but thriving in your own. So my challenge to you, take a look at your life this week. Ask yourself, am I still riding with training wheels? Or am I still holding on to the umbilical cord? And what's one step I can take today, not tomorrow, but today, to move towards independence? Because your graduation starts the moment you decide it does. And don't forget, my book is on Amazon, but most importantly, it's on my website, ljtucker.com. And when you order it off my book, it comes as an autograph. You can get what you want, how you want it written, and we'll get it autographed, signed, and sent directly to you. I appreciate your time of listening to my show. Stay electrified. Have a blessed week.